Hello and welcome back to Anomalies with Alexa. I'm your host, Alexa. This is my co-host,
Lance.
This is episode 2, and it's what I'm calling Evolution of Our Beliefs and what it has to do with our take on most paranormal stories. So we have a few stories for you that have to do with what has shaped my beliefs and why. So I was raised a very devout Christian, sort of Baptist-ish, and he was raised Christian as well.
Not as devout.
Yeah. He was more of a holidays Christian, whereas I was at church over time. We were there early morning before the service started and late after. I was raised to tithe and just, yeah. I don't categorize myself under any certain theology, maybe an agnostic, that I believe something's out there, but do I know what or do I understand it? No. And do I care that much to understand it? Not really. I eventually had my doubts in God, had some things happen, and he is, I guess, too busy filling up girls' hairspray bottles. I don't think you would understand that, but some of you might. So, my eventual doubts in Christianity led me to spirituality, which is like, witchcraft, I guess? Kind of like crystals, Ouija boards, spells. I never got super duper deep into it. We got a Ouija board at one point. I had tarot cards at one point. I was trying to understand them and use them, and I felt like I had a little bit of a connection with them, but not really. I was raised to believe that my sense to the paranormal was called being a prophet. I eventually was led from spirituality to numerology. I didn't focus on this very long. I do tend to believe that there is power in numbers with humans, like more than one, because I did experience it firsthand when I was consistently in the church. When the group was there all praying to one God, all believing in the same thing, all very emotional, and music, low lighting. I think it did cause me to feel something. Now, was that something God? I don't think so. And I think this is true in any instance. You can go to a party where everyone's drunk and you might feel a little bit drunk even though you haven't drank anything. So I just think that we do hold a lot of power in groups, and we as humans hold a lot of power maybe in our subconscious. And then I started getting kind of deep into learning about our evolution, where we came from, how the earth started. And while we don't know 100% for sure how everything started, we do have fossilized evidence for where we are now. I was really interested in learning about the time period when we were alive at the same time as the Neanderthals. And I can't remember what species they were, but they were different than us, and they would eat us, and they would attack our tribes, basically, and take our women. And the reason why we're actually alive today and survived a lot of the Great Dying is because we had 2%-ish of Neanderthal DNA, and they had a stronger immune system than us, but they died out because all of the big animals were dying out during the Great Dying. They didn't have enough protein, and we hid in caves and learned that spears could go further, and we didn't have to get close to these big, mean things that could see in the dark and were taking our women and them. So we went from unicellular. I feel like nothing just happened by coincidence. I think there had to be some sort of reason why we got to where we are.
Yeah.
I don't believe it's just all science, but I believe there's a good balance between science and whimsy. I don't think it's all just science. I don't believe it's all just a higher power. I like to believe that the energy inside of us, like our consciousness and our life power, doesn't just go away when we die. I'd like to believe that maybe it goes to a collective where we all just go when we die. Maybe we come back as something else. Maybe sometimes we get spiritually stuck on Earth, and maybe everything's happening all at once in different realms. Who knows? I believe that we shouldn't really be waiting on a better ending. We should be making this life good for everybody instead of just waiting for a. Like, why are we waiting for heaven to actually, like, make things better when we know we're here now? So why not make this heaven, you know? Why chance it on something that's possibly not going to happen? And so what does all of this have to do with the paranormal? Let me tell you. Well, I have a few stories that we're going to talk about. First, I have residual hauntings. We believe that everyday habits that consistently happen over a very long period of time can create some sort of pattern recognition or an energetic imprint on the environment. So, some examples of residual hauntings are in the Stanley Hotel Ballroom in Colorado. Built by Freeland Oscar Stanley, the inventor of the Stanley steamer car, this luxury hotel opened in 1909 to attract wealthy tourists to the fresh mountain air. Odie just hit his head on the door.
Yeah, I seen that.
The piano player. Flora Stanley, Freeland's wife, was a talented pianist. Her spirit is said to be the one playing the piano in the empty ballroom. If you walk into the room while the keys are moving, the music will stop. And this is connected to Stephen King's The Shining, the movie and the book. So the connection to Stephen King is that he stayed there in 1974. The hotel was about to close for the winter. He and his wife were the only guests in the entire building. He walked into the empty bar, was served by a bartender named Grady, and later had a nightmare about his son being chased through the corridors. He woke up, lit a cigarette, and had the entire plot of The Shining. The Gettysburg Battlefield in Pennsylvania. In July 1863, over 50,000 soldiers were killed, wounded, or went missing during the 3-day Civil War battle. The ground soaked up unimaginable amounts of trauma. In 2001, a visitor filming at night caught blurry shapes running through the trees that perfectly matched the speed and movement of charging soldiers. Different visitors standing miles apart on the battlefield have reported smelling gunpowder and hearing distant phantom cannon fire at the exact same hour. The next thing I have is the Queen Mary Pool in California. Once a majestic ocean liner that carried royalty and celebrities, the ship was used as a troop transport during World War II, nicknamed the Grey Ghost, before retiring in Long Beach. A young girl named Jackie Torin reportedly drowned in the first-class pool during the ship's active years. Security guards and tour guides have repeatedly walked into the dry, locked pool room only to find wet footprints leading away from the edge of the pool, fading into nothingness on the concrete floor. The Edinburgh Castle in Scotland. This ancient fortress sits on a massive volcanic rock and has been attacked or besieged more than any other castle in European history. The boys' mission was several hundred years ago. A secret network of tunnels was discovered under the castle. A young drummer boy was sent down with his drum. He was told to march and play loudly so the people above could map out where the tunnel led. Halfway through his march towards the city's main street, the drumming abruptly stopped. Search parties went down but never found him. Today, his rhythmic drumming is heard right before the castle faces danger or a major historical event. The last one I have for residual hauntings is the Palace of Versailles in France. Known as the Moberly-Jourdain incident, this happened to two highly respected skeptical British school teachers while visiting the Petit Trianon. As they walked, the air suddenly felt heavy and flat, like a painting. They ran into men dressed as 18th century royal gardeners who told them to move along. They saw a woman sitting on the grass sketching. She looked directly at them. Later, looking at historical pictures, they realized the woman's face perfectly matched Marie Antoinette. When they returned to the spot years later, the paths they'd walked down the buildings they saw no longer existed and had been torn down over a century prior. We believe that possessions are possible, but like if all like other mental health disorders have been ruled out, there's no other causes. Some examples of possessions in real life cases are Arnie Cheyenne Johnson.
Black eyes.
11-year-old David Glatzel began screaming about a beast with big black eyes and animal features. Paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren were called in to help. We actually tried to go to their house and set up like a night there, but they want $1,200 a night. And it's booked. There are people that are actually booking it up. Like they're from September all the way to December is completely booked.
And isn't it for just a couple hours and not the whole night?
You get it from like, sorry, our dog is having the most joyous time. So we actually tried to get into their old house, Ed and Lorraine, but it's $1,200 a night and it is completely booked from like September all the way to December. Who is paying $1,200 for like 11 a.m. to 11 p.m.? Because I think you actually only get it for like 12 hours. I think you can spend the night, but you only get access to most of the house while there's people there that are like hired to make sure you're not busting anything down. But like, yeah, I don't know. It was like crazy expensive. So they were called to help during a tense exorcism. 19-year-old Arnie Johnson mocked the demon and dared it to leave the boy and enter him instead. Months later, Arnie began acting strange and entering trances. During a heated argument with his landlord, Alan Bono, Arnie growled like an animal, drew a knife, and stabbed him many times. His lawyer tried to enter a plea of not guilty by reason of demonic possession, but the judge threw that out, saying there was no scientific proof of demons. This sensation made history and inspired the movie The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. The next one I have is... Oh, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. But since there's no science on it, there's no science saying it wasn't it either, though.
Boy! I'm cutting that out. But you have to have proven facts.
Yeah,
like, he could have done
so.
by reason of insanity and probably gotten a trial with that, but...
Yeah, but he probably would have been treated way worse than just going to prison then.
No, you just go to a hospital. For like... I don't know if it's called an asylum still, but you would just go to an asylum. And you're just being treated for your mental health issue.
Didn't they used to do, what's it called where they'd go through your nose and pick at your brain?
You're talking about a...
Didn't they
don't do that anymore. That's like an old thing.
Oh, how old is this? Because I thought they did it in like the 80s and stuff.
No, I think that was more the 60s. Yeah, lobotomies were stopped in the 1950s after medications were invented. So next up I have LaToya Ammons. In 2011, LaToya and her 3 children moved into a rental home in Gary, Indiana. Soon, flies swarmed the porch. In the freezing winter, footsteps appeared in the kitchen, and LaToya woke up to see a shadow man pacing her living room. What makes this case most terrifying is those who saw it and reported it. A medical professional named Valerie Washington wrote an official report that LaToya's 9-year-old son walked backwards up a wall and onto the ceiling while grinning. The police captain, Charles Austin, admitted he was completely skeptical, but after his squad car's radio malfunctioned outside the house, photos he took inside came out blank, and he witnessed shadow figures himself. He stated he believed that the home was truly infested. And lastly, for possessions, I have Nicole Aubrey from 1565. Nicole was a 16-year-old girl who fell into terrible fits where her body became rigid as iron or bent completely in half. She claimed 29 different demons were inside of her, led by Beelzebub, Satanus,
That's,
Lucifer.
Isn't that a part of the Exorcist movie?
That demon, I think, is brought up in a lot of different... So, the local bishop decided to hold exorcisms in public on a wooden stage inside the Cathedral of Laon so everyone could watch. At the time, France was torn by religious wars. When the Catholic priest had successfully commanded the demon to leave, it was seen as proof by the public that the Catholic Church was the true faith, causing thousands of Protestants in the region to instantly convert. So do we know if that was real or if it was just a way for people to convert? Protestants to Catholic, we will never know. Lastly, what I have written here is that we believe negative energy draws paranormal activity as a spiritual beacon, and dark spirits can feed on this negative energy. With your lowered spiritual defense, you're more susceptible to these negative spirits, and your suppressed negative emotions can create a ghost, a poltergeist, a large emotional event, usually negative, that dents the energy and stays. Like a large fight or a very gruesome attack or murder. So, some negative energy drawing dark spirits. Number one, I have the Amityville Horror in 1975. Ronald DeFeo Jr. shot and killed 6 members of his family inside their beautiful Dutch colonial home.
Also, when you go back to edit this, you're gonna see Anne right here trying to jump over the fence at someone.
Perfect. A year later, George and Kathleen Lutz bought the house at a bargain price. They lasted only 28 days. George would wake up every night at 3:15 a.m., the estimated time of the murders. The house became infested with swarms of black flies and green slime allegedly oozing from the walls. Parapsychologists believe that the intense horror and grief felt by the DeFeo family during their final moments left behind a massive black hole of emotional energy. This energy acted like a beacon, calling out to malevolent, non-human entities in the area to come feed on the misery. Next, I have the Anguished Man painting. The painting shows a distorted, agonized face painted in dark lines and violent reds. The artist's grandmother kept it hidden in her attic for a quarter century because she felt it was pure evil. When Sean Robinson inherited it from her, he put it in his bedroom. Instantly, his wife felt someone stroking her hair in the dark. His son fell down the stairs as if pushed by invisible hands, and the family dog refused to enter the room. Emotional energy can be imprinted onto physical objects, commonly known as psychometry, because the artist created this piece while in extreme despair and used his own blood while feeling the negative emotions like depression, anxiety, and sadness. The painting holds a highly concentrated charge of negative human emotion and functions as a battery for dark spirits. And lastly, I have the Stanford Prison Experiment from 1971. Psychologist Philip Zimbardo set up a fake prison in the basement of Stanford University. Healthy, normal male college students were assigned to either be guards or prisoners. Within days, the guards became shockingly sadistic, strip-searching prisoners, forcing them to sleep on cold concrete, and psychologically torturing them. The experiment had to be shut down after just 6 days because the cruelty got completely out of hand. While mainstream science explains this through psychology, power of roles, paranormal researchers look at the geography. The windowless, claustrophobic basement became a dense pressure cooker of pure fear, hatred, and dominance. It's theorized that this rapid burst of negative human emotion tore open an energetic portal, allowing oppressive, dark atmosphere to flood the basement and manipulate the minds of the young guards.
And that was in a college, but
It was in
like
the basement.
Yeah,
It
fake
turned
prison.
into a prison for an experiment.
The heck? And it got shut down in a week.
Yes, because of how sadistic the prison guards got towards the prisoners, quote unquote.
What the heck?
Yeah. I'm still surprised that the guy started painting with his own blood. I mean, it's not surprising, but it's a little odd. It's fine. So, that is the end of what I have. And if you want to see more, please subscribe, like, share, and if you made it to the end, please comment. What emoji? A tennis ball.
Yeah.
Is there a tennis ball? Yeah.
Yeah.
A tennis ball emoji. Please send in your stories if you want, so we can read them with the class. Our email is anomalieswithalexa@gmail.com. We would love to see you in the next one. Goodbye.
Goodbye.